I didn't see him. What are you looking so sad about, Jack?
I'm surprised. I mean, I'm really insulted. That's not right, what you just said.
What do you mean, what I just said?
I mean, I'm getting a drink of water. I'm late getting home, but you talk. I said something about the greatest heavyweight champ, man. I'm a hometown man, and you talking about Joe Louis, man. Joe Louis wouldn't be nothing for me. Joe, I tell you, Joe, do you think you would have stood a chance with me?
Well, Clay, one time during my career, I've gone on a Formula One tour.
I would have been a bum compared to you.
Well, you know, so
What's happening, my people? It's Cass Sports again, back for another afternoon with the family. That's right. You know what time it is. If it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Boxtorian, bringing you all that boxing history. Boxing is the greatest sport of them all. That's why we love it. Can't get enough of it. Salute to everyone and welcome to another episode of Cass Sports, the Boxtorian. Today, great boxing trainers and fighters. How's the family today? Yeah, we're going to talk about some of the old school trainers, some of the best trainers ever. And we're going to talk about some of the great fighters from 1900 all the way up to 2025 today on Cass Sports, bringing you all that boxing history. It's Wednesday, hump day, getting ready to be on the way downhill to the weekend. Got the DB3 card coming up Saturday. Keyshawn Davis going in there against Edwin De Los Santos. Edwin coming off of a layoff. But, layoff 100%. Edwin, I think Keyshawn would take care of him. But we will see. That's the best part of it. Live boxing coming up in a few more days. But today on Cast Sports, we're going to be talking about some great boxing trainers and some fighters coming all the way from 1900 all the way up to the present. But first, for the highlights of boxing history today, we're going to talk about 10 of the best boxers ever in terms of movement, okay? Footwork, all that stuff. We got 10 of the best in terms of movement today for the highlights of boxing history. But how's everybody today on this Wednesday hump day? We always do the highlights of boxing history. Take us up to 2:30. Let a few more people get into the building. So let's get into that. The highlights of boxing history today is going to be 10 of the best boxers ever in terms of movement. Okay? So without further ado, highlights of boxing history. All right. Yes, 3 of the best ever in terms of movement. Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Robinson, Roy Jones Jr. Okay, let's get into it. 10 of the best boxers ever in terms of movement. Now, Muhammad Ali's footwork and lightning fast hands made him a formidable and elusive opponent in the ring. Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s defensive skills and impeccable timing frustrated opponents and established him as one of the greatest defensive fighters in boxing history. Sugar Ray Robinson's exceptional lateral movement and graceful footwork gave him an advantage over his opponents, leading to his status as one of the best boxers ever. Okay, so let's get into these 10 of the best boxers ever in terms of movement. Now, the art of boxing encompasses a variety of skills. Now, one aspect that often sets great boxers apart from the rest is their movement. Now, skilled fighters can dodge punches, change angles, and switch between attack and defense smoothly. Over the years, famous champions have amazed viewers with their fast footwork and dodging. Now, some boxers stand out for their defensive and offensive movements in the ring. Let's look at these 10 of the best ever in terms of movement. The greatest, Muhammad Ali. Okay. Now, Muhammad Ali became famous for his fighting style. Ali told anyone who would listen that he could float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. His evasive style made him a tricky opponent to catch and difficult to fight against. Ali's excellent footwork and agility helped him show incredible finesse when dodging punches. Ali only got hit 10 times during his 3-round fight with Cleveland Williams, despite Williams' best attempts. Ali's incredible agility allowed him to glide effortlessly in the ring, a rare sight for heavyweight boxers. Ali had excellent punching speed, especially with his jab, known as one of boxing's fastest. His lightning fast jabs were executed with thunderous power. Ali famously executed the mysterious Phantom Punch in his rematch against Sonny Liston. Spectators hardly saw the punch connecting, yet it resulted in Liston collapsing onto the canvas. That exemplifies Ali's extraordinary ability to deliver devastating blows, seemingly out of nowhere. Ali is among the best boxers because of his fantastic footwork and lightning fast hand. The greatest, Muhammad Ali. Okay, talking about some of the best boxers ever in terms of movement. Floyd Mayweather Jr. Floyd Mayweather Jr. Mayweather is famous for his great defense and impeccable timing. These skills have made him very successful at boxing. Two of Mayweather's most notable fights were against Manny Pacquiao and Oscar De La Hoya. His defensive prowess allowed him to slip punches with exceptional ease. These moves frustrated opponents and prevented them from landing significant blows. Mayweather's ability to counter adds to his defensive abilities. It makes him one of the greatest defensive fighters in the history of the sport. Mayweather's success and fame don't only come from his defensive skills. His strategic approach and technical skills have established him as a boxing legend. Floyd Pretty Boy / Money Mayweather. Okay. Next, Sugar Ray Robinson, Mr. Pound for Pound himself. We're talking about 10 of the best boxers ever in terms of movement. Sugar Ray Robinson is known as one of the best boxers ever. He became famous for his graceful and smooth moves in the boxing ring. His footwork was crucial to his fighting style. It helped him move quickly around opponents and gain an advantage. Robinson's exceptional lateral movement distinguished him from other fighters of his era. Robinson's most noteworthy fights took place against Jake LaMotta and Gene Foreman. He showed off his speed and footwork throughout his 6-fight series with LaMotta. He always outclassed the tough competitor. Robinson's iconic left hook delivered a conclusive knockout in their final encounter. Mr. Pound for Pound himself, Sugar Ray Robinson. Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker. Best boxers ever in terms of movement, Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker. Pernell Whitaker always gave his opponents a hard time. They struggled to hit him due to his brilliant defense and agile footwork. He could dodge punches and counter accurately. Whitaker showed impressive skills in his memorable fight against Oscar De La Hoya, which many spectators felt he won. Whitaker's defensive brilliance frustrated and outclassed the legendary Mexican boxer Julio Cesar Chavez. The very controversial draw in that one. Okay, talking about some of the best boxers ever in terms of movement. The Will o' the Wisp, Willie Pep. Willie Pep was famous for his defensive boxing skills. He had great footwork, moved his head well, and had quick reflexes. His nickname, Will o' the Wisp, comes from his elusive style and effective counterpunching. Pep's excellent footwork stood out when he fought Jackie Graves. Pep showed off his trademark footwork and defensive skills against Sandy Sadler. Against Graves, that he actually fought around and won it without throwing a punch. Okay? He dodged powerful punches and countered accurately. Pep always displayed his defensive talent, confusing opponents with his clever moves. The Will o' the Wisp, Willie Pep. Crush, the legend. What's up, Crush? 6 a.m. Monday through Friday. Crush, the legend. What's this? Sweet Pea, the legend. That's right, Crush. Sweet Pea, the legend. The salute, Crush. We just talking about in the highlights of boxing history. Some of the best boxers ever in terms of movement. Okay. That's why we had Muhammad Ali, Floyd, Roy Jones, Willie Pep. We just got the Roy Jones. They had Sugar Ray Robinson in there too. But next is Roy Jones. Incredible moves in the ring Roy had. Okay, Roy Jones Jr. Okay, thank you. Okay. Roy Jones Jr.'s distinctive style was truly captivating, seamlessly combining speed, agility, and athleticism. Inside the ring, he proved to be a formidable force thanks to his rapid movements and the capacity to unleash potent combinations. Jones Jr. exhibited a remarkable ability to effortlessly navigate in and out of striking range, showcasing a fluidity and finesse that set him apart in the world of boxing. Roy Jones Jr. showed his athleticism in his most notable matches against James Lights Out Toney and Bernard Hopkins. Jones Jr.'s agility and footwork helped him dominate the fight against Toney. He easily dodged punches and landed precise combinations. And Jones Jr.'s quick reflexes and evasive footwork helped him win the fight against Hopkins. Roy Jones Jr. Guillermo Rigondeaux. Thomas Hill. What's up, T. Hill? We winding down on the highlights of boxing history. Some of the best boxers ever in terms of movement, T. Hill. Guillermo Rigondeaux. He had some fascinating footwork. Let's talk about Guillermo Rigondeaux. Now, Guillermo Rigondeaux is famous for his excellent footwork and defense, which gave him impressive elusiveness. The Cuban's ability to pivot and create angles made him a true defensive genius in the ring. Rigondeaux had impressive footwork and defense in his fights against Nonito Donaire and Rico Ramos. Rigondeaux was fast and had fancy footwork, making it hard for Donaire to hit him. In his fight with Ramos, Rigondeaux dodged punches easily to show his defensive skills. He also demonstrated his ability to create openings and effectively counter his opponent. Guillermo Rigondeaux. This guy here was just amazing. His name is the Untouchable. So he had to be bad with that movement and defense and footwork. Mr. Nicolino Loesch. He don't get the credit he deserves. You know, he's up there with Sweet Pea Floyd, Willie Pep when it comes to defense, but you hardly ever hear about Nicolino Loesch. Check him out. The guy was like a magician in the ring. Nicolino Loesch, or the Untouchable, earned his nickname for his incredible defensive skills. He was perfect at moving his head and feet quickly. These moves enabled him to evade and elude punches with remarkable precision, effectively. Now, Loesch's ability to make opponents miss their target was genuinely extraordinary. So he was like a magician in there, man. Loesch's win against Antonio Cervantes was particularly remarkable. This particular victory demonstrated Loesch's defensive mastery. It also showcased his ability to counter and outmaneuver his opponents strategically. Nicolino Loesch. The Matrix. Talked about movement and footwork. The Matrix. Vasyl Lomachenko. The Matrix. Where's the Matrix at? Is he retired or what? What's going on, Matrix? Where you at? Vasyl Lomachenko was extensively trained by his father, Anatoly Lomachenko, from a young age. He is good at moving smoothly and changing angles with his footwork, which confuses his opponents. These moves firmly establish him as one of the elite figures of our contemporary time, the era we're in right now, I guess. But where is he? Now, Lomachenko's impressive agility and movement in the boxing ring stood out in his fights with Linares and Guillermo Rigondeaux. Yeah, Lomachenko is WBO, IBF something, but I know he's the champion, and Raymond Muratalla is the interim. Loma need to get on out the way so Raymond Muratalla can claim that belt he deserves, or fight him. Loma need to either get out the way or fight him. What they say, get off the pot or shit. Excuse my language. But yeah, Loma needs to do that, man. Where is he? Anybody else would have been stripped by now. The man is holding up the progress, man. Come on, Loma, you have to do something. You have to do something. Shit or get off the pot. Floyd Patterson. Seriously, man. I mean, didn't they strip Bud like a week after he beat Earl, remember? The IBS stripped him a week later. Loma been holding him out for like 2 years at before nothing. You know? Muratalla is the interim. He's a fight Muratalla or retire. One or the other. Now, I don't have nothing against Loma, but he's holding up progress, man. You know, holding up the division. Holding on to a belt, but he's not fighting. Come on, man. Floyd Patterson. Sorry for going off on that rant, but seriously. I mean, if you're going to be champion, you got to fight somebody or either give the belt up. Then you can take off as long as you want to. But you got a belt, you got to be in there competing, man. You know? Floyd Patterson is the final one. Now, Patterson was mentored by Cus D'Amato in the peekaboo style and exhibited commendable head movement. Now, the former champion was vulnerable to knockout punches despite his fast footwork. He used a unique punch called the gazelle punch. This punch involved shuffling and throwing a left hook. This strike enabled him to cover considerable distances. Patterson displayed phenomenal hand speed, reminiscent of Muhammad Ali. Now, while Ali was known for quick punches, Patterson was famous for his lightning-fast hooks and crosses. In one fight, Patterson lasted 7 rounds against Ali. The fight ended because of an injury to Patterson's left eye. These boxers had great movement, dominating the ring with their skilled technique. They made a lasting impact on the sport of boxing. Those were 10 of the greatest boxers ever in terms of movement. Okay, so now we are going to talk about some great fighters, going all the way back to the 1900s, all the way up to now, 2025. Is it still 25? It's time going so fast. Have to be sure, but let's get into it. How's everybody today? It's hump day. And let's talk fashion this morning. I was out and about, I missed it. I'm gonna have to be replay shorty today on Let's Talk Fashion. Okay. Here we're gonna have some of the best boxers of each decade, from 1900s all the way up to now. Okay. Some of the best boxers from every decade, from 1900 to 2025. Okay. And tomorrow, the Boxing in the State series winding down. It's going to be Wisconsin. And then Friday, we're doing active boxers now. The first Friday of every month, we're going to profile an active boxer, starting with the life and career of Canelo Alvarez this week. Okay. So yeah, I decided to, we were only doing formers, but we're going to start doing active boxers now. Okay. Friday, life and career of Canelo Alvarez. What's up, Mike Graham? Salute. So you ended your nap early today, Mike? Okay. Mike was kind of late yesterday. Overslept on that nap. Salute, Mike. Good to see you. Okay, we're going to talk about some of the best boxers from every decade, 1900 all the way up to the present. Little brief things. Okay, 1900s. James J. Jeffries. There he is. Heavyweight champion known for his strength and skill. He was undefeated in his career until his retirement. Okay, but he came out to try to take the title from Jack Johnson, the first African-American or melanated champion, and got beat. And we're going to come back around on these fighters too. I'm not finished with 1910s. Oh boy. Jack Johnson. 1910s, Jack Johnson. Now, the first African-American heavyweight champion known for his defensive skills and controversial reign, Jack Johnson. 1920s, Jack Dempsey. Define Arnie One. What's up, Define Arnie One? How you doing today, my brother? Good to see you. Okay. We are talking about some of the best boxers. We started 1900 coming all the way up to now. And we're going to come back around and talk some more about these fighters too. Touching on them briefly right now. We're up to 1900s was James J. Jeffries, 1910s Jack Johnson, 1920s Jack Dempsey. A cultural icon and one of the most famous boxers of his time, known for his aggressive style and knockout power, Jack Dempsey. Okay, 1930s, the Brown Bomber, Joe Louis. The Brown Bomber, he became a symbol of racial pride and was known for his powerful punches and technical skill. The Brown Bomber. 1940s, y'all already know who that is. Sugar Ray Robinson. Sugar Ray Robinson, often considered the greatest pound-for-pound boxer ever. He was known for his versatility and skill in multiple weight classes. Sugar Ray Robinson. Y'all should know the 1950s too. The Rock, Rocky Marciano. The only heavyweight champion to retire undefeated. Known for his reliable, relentless fighting style and knockout power. The Rock. Y'all should know the 60s too. Muhammad Ali. Originally known as Cassius Clay, he was famous for his speed, charisma, and legendary fights against Sonny Liston and Smoking Joe Frazier. Speaking of Smoking Joe Frazier, 1970s, Smoking Joe Frazier. Like Howard Cosell said, Smoking Joe Frazier. Thomas Hill can do it better than me. Now, Smoking Joe Frazier, known for his relentless pressure and legendary fights against Muhammad Ali, including the fight of the century. It was the first one. The Smoking Joe won. We're going to come back around and talk about these fighters some more too. Okay, 1980s. Iron Mike Tyson became the youngest heavyweight champion in history, known for his ferocious power and aggressive style. 1990s. Roy Jones Jr., a dominant force across multiple weight classes, known for his speed, reflexes, and unorthodox style. 2000s. I might have got this back. Floyd. Floyd should have been 2010s. Manny should have been, but 2000s, Floyd Mayweather Jr. Undefeated and known for his defensive prowess and technical skill. He became a global superstar, right? Manny should have been 2000s. Floyd should have been 2010s. But 2010s, Manny. You can switch them two around, either or. Floyd and Manny. Either one could be 2000s. Either one could be 2010s. But those two, 2000 and 2020, Floyd and Manny, dominated that period. But 2010s, Manny Pacquiao. And Manny trying to come back. Manny coming back against Mario. I hope Mario, but I'm not gonna hate on Manny. To get in Mario. Manny Pacquiao, the only boxer to win world titles in 8 different weight classes, known for his speed and power. In the 2020s to now, of course, Canelo Alvarez. A dominant figure in boxing, known for his power and skills across multiple weight classes, becoming a unified champion at super middleweight, undisputed. Canelo is the only one to be 4-belt undisputed in the same weight division 2 times, right? Super middleweight. Nobody else has ever done it twice in the same division. Now, the GOAT has done it 3 times in 3 weight divisions, and 5 fighters have done it twice in different weight divisions. But Canelo is the only one to do it twice in the same weight division. Mm-hmm. Canelo is the profile Friday because we're doing active fighters. The first Friday of every month, we're going to do an active fighter starting with Canelo, the face of the sport. Might as well start with him, right? Yeah. Life and career of Canelo Alvarez Friday. Okay. So let's continue. Now we done touched on every fighter, the best fighter from each decade. So let's go back into them a little bit deeper now. Okay. Let's see. Bear with me for a moment. But how's everybody today? It's hump day. We had the Let's Talk Fashion this morning with Remo, 10 a.m. I missed it. I was out and about, but I'm going to be the replay shorty on that today. So now let's talk about each of these fighters we just touched on. Some of their details about their most famous fights, right, that they had. Like the James J. Jeffries for the 1900s. Okay. Now, James J. Jeffries versus Jim Corbett. This fight occurred in 1903. Very briefly, I'm not going to bore y'all. Now, Jeffries won by TKO in the 15th round, reclaiming the heavyweight title. It was a pivotal moment in boxing history. Jack Johnson, Dr. Jack, against James Jeffries, right? 1910. Remember, James J. Jeffries came out of retirement because they didn't like this melanated guy being the heavyweight champion. So they talked James J. Jeffries into come out of retirement to take it back from him. So Johnson versus James J. Jeffries, 1910. Now, Johnson won by TKO in the 15th round, becoming the first African-American heavyweight champion. Now, the fight was highly controversial and significant for racial dynamics in America. He actually won the title in 1908. He retained it in 1910 against James J. Jeffries. Okay, Jack Dempsey. What was his significant fight? Jack Dempsey. Gene Tunney, 1927. Fight he lost. Dempsey lost in a highly publicized fight, which included the famous long count after he knocked Tunney down. Dempsey wouldn't go to the neutral corner. Now, he was confused because that was the first fight where they had started using the neutral corner. You know, before then, you could stand right there by the referee while he counted. So the referee was trying to get Jack Dempsey to go to the neutral corner, and he probably wasn't used to it. So, you know, they said Gene Tunney was on the mat like 15, 18 seconds. But I don't guess they utilized the timekeeper back then either because, you know, while the referee trying to get the other fighter to the neutral corner, the timekeeper was supposed to start the count, right? And the referee's supposed to look at him and pick it up where he's at. He's not supposed to start at 0, but they probably wasn't doing that back then either because that was the first fight where they used the neutral corners though. Yeah, but that was what's significant about that. A lot of people back then said Jack Dempsey threw the fight. That's why it took so long to go. But I just think he was confused because that was the first fight where he had to go to a neutral corner after a knockdown. So no, I don't think he threw it. He was just kind of confused. Like, what are you talking about, referee? Start counting. You know? He didn't realize about the neutral corner because it was something new. Okay, Joe Louis. You know what his fight was? Max Smelling, 1938, when he regained that title, because Max Smelling gave Joe Louis his first loss in 1936. And, you know, in between those fights, 36 and 38 fight, Joe Louis became heavyweight champion, but he said he didn't want to be called heavyweight champion until he got their rematch and beat Max Smelling, which happened in 1938. Louis won by knockout in the first round, avenging his earlier defeat to Smelling. This fight had significant cultural implications amid the tensions of World War II. You know, Hitler and the Nazis was over there flexing their muscles and everything, and everybody thought if Max Smelling got that title, Hitler was going to keep him over there in Europe fighting lower level fighters, you know. But Joe Louis beat him, so we didn't have to worry about that. But and then Joe Louis, like I told y'all before, Joe Louis, the fight only lasted 2 minutes into the first round, but he beat this man so bad. In a 2 minute fight, Max Smelling spent 2 months in the hospital just from a 2 minute beating. Wow, that was crazy. 2 months in the hospital for a 2 minute fight. Okay, Sugar Ray Roberts. Gotta be Jake LaMotta. Versus Jake LaMotta, 1943. Now, Sugar Ray won by a unanimous decision in a brutal 15-round fight, showcasing his legendary skills and stamina. This was part of a famous rivalry, 6 fights. Now, Sugar Ray won 5 out of the 6, but that was very misleading because all 6 were good fights. He didn't dominate Jake at all. But I think it should have been 3-3 because I seen all 6 of them. I think Jake won 3 of those fights. They only gave him 1, but I think it should have been 3-3. But he was Sugar Ray Robinson, Mr. Pound for Pound. You know, he got favorable treatment. And then one fight, I think it was the 3rd fight, Sugar Ray had joined the Army and was going in the Army the next day. And they gave it to Sugar Ray. That's what I thought Jake won. And Jake said the only reason they gave it to Sugar Ray because he was going in the Army the next day. Yeah. But the 50s, Rocky Marciano. Got to be the Jersey Joe fight, right? When he first won the title. 1952, Jersey Joe Walcott. Now, Rocky won by a knockout in the 13th round, claiming the heavyweight title. The fight is famous for Marciano's dramatic comeback after being knocked down. Yeah, Jersey Joe knocked Rocky down in the first round. And when we got to round 13, Jersey Joe was ahead on all 3 cards. All he had to do was make it to the 15th round. He had it. Too bad it wasn't 12 rounds, then Rocky would have never been champion. But it was 15, and Rocky had that kind of fight-changing power with 1 punch. And Susie Q got through in the 13th round, and that was all she wrote. Jersey Joe went down. I think it was down for like 5 minutes. And Rocky became champion, never lost, retired undefeated. Muhammad Ali, 1960s, got to be Sonny Liston, right? 1964, the first Sonny Liston fight. Muhammad Ali, when he first won the title from Sonny. Okay, Ali won by TKO in the 7th round. Sonny didn't answer the bell. And Ali shocked the boxing world, marking the beginning of his legendary career because nobody gave him a chance, man. Sonny Liston was just destroying everybody. Like Foreman was doing in the early 70s, and Ali beat him. Sonny Liston was not only beating people, he was just destroying them. Floyd Patterson, back-to-back knockouts in the first round. Like the second fight, he knocked Floyd out like 4 seconds after the first fight. So when Ali beat Sonny Liston, that was a shock. And Ali said that when he was acting so crazy in the press conferences and the weigh-ins, the lead up to the fight, he said he was trying to cover up his fear because he said he was terrified of Sonny Liston. That's why he was acting so crazy, because he said he was scared. Ali said Sonny had him terrified, right? But he knew his skills and everything. When that bell rang, he went in there and took care of his business. Smoking Joe Frazier, 1970. Here's Smoking Joe. Frazier versus Ali, 71, the first fight. Frazier won by unanimous decision in the fight of the century, a historic fight that showcased both fighters' talents And that was like an event, just like Joe Louis and Max Smelling in 38 lead up to World War II, because the Vietnam War was going on and Ali was like the anti-war people. And Joe Frazier was thrust into a role he didn't want for the people that was for the war, was all behind Joe Frazier. And Joe Frazier didn't want that. Joe Frazier just was a quiet person and he just wanted to fight, but he got put into that role. And Bruce Gass told me this. He said, that's Bruce Gass right there. He said they was outside the arena, the Garden, battling that night, the night of the fight of the century. Yeah, pipes, baseball bats, everything going on out there. But yeah, Joe Frazier did not want that role of being the war people hero, but he was put into it, and he won the fight. Well, what's up, Bruce Gass? Yeah, and that was part of the biggest, most iconic fights of all three of them. The first one, that was when Joe put that left hook on Ali. I think he still would have won without that knockdown, but that sealed the deal. I think it was the 14th round. He knocked Ali down with that left hook. That's one of the most famous punches ever. That Joe Frazier left hook knocking Ali down in that fight of the century. Yeah, then we go to Mike Tyson in the 80s. His most famous fight. Trevor Berbick, when he first won the title in 1986. Tyson became the youngest heavyweight champion at 20 years old, winning by TKO in the second round. And Trevor Berbick looked like he would have rather been anywhere else but in that ring with Mike Tyson doing that fight, man. Trevor was beaten, before the fight even started. Looked like he was trembling when the referee was in the middle, when the referee was giving the instructions. Trevor looked like he was actually trembling. And when Mike knocked him down out in that second round, Trevor was the happiest person in the world that it was over. But yeah, Mike became the youngest heavyweight champion ever, 20 years of age. Yep. Terrell Cummings. What's up, Terrell? How are you today? And salute Bruce Gass in the building. And Terrell Cummings. Salute, Terrell. We just talking about some famous boxers. We went all the way back to the best boxer of each decade from 1900 up to now, and some of their most famous fight. Some of these fights are iconic, Iconic don't necessarily have to be a good competitive fight. Just what's surrounding it and everything. Like Joe Louis and Max Smelling was an iconic fight, but it was anything but competitive. It only lasted 2 minutes, right? But it was iconic. With the backdrop of World War II, surrounding it. And Joe Louis got called to the White House by the president, and the president told him how important it was for him to win that fight. He said the entire Western world is riding on him winning that fight, because Hitler would have used it as a propaganda tool. If Smelling would have won, how dominant they are and everything, right? But Joe Louis got it done. But Mike Tyson, the 90s, Roy Jones Jr., Roy, 1994 versus James Lights Out Tony. Jones won by unanimous decision, solidified his status as a top pound-for-pound fighter in a highly technical fight with Lights Out. Yeah, that was a big one there in the 90s. One of the bigger fights of the 90s, as a matter of fact. Floyd Mayweather Jr. got to be Oscar, right? Oscar De La Hoya, 2007. Floyd won by split decision in a highly anticipated fight that generated massive pay-per-view revenue. At that time, it was the highest grossing fight ever. Only passed by Floyd versus Manny and Floyd versus Conor McGregor. Floyd Oscar is still the third highest grossing fight ever. Right? Floyd and Oscar, 2007, 18 years ago. And I think that was a very good competitive fight. T. Hill said Oscar was doing a lot of windmilling on the ropes, and the judges was fooled by a lot of that. But I thought it was kind of close. I think that was Floyd's closest fight, even closer than what was Castile and Madonna. I think Oscar was the closest he came to losing. His father, Floyd Sr., even said he lost it in the ring after the fight. Floyd Sr. said he thought Oscar won. But Floyd pulled it out, split decision. Okay, then Manny. You could switch them around. Like Manny could be for the 2000s, Floyd could be for the 2010s. So either way, those two were the two dominant fighters from 2000 to 2020. Floyd and Manny finally met up in 2015. And Manny's biggest fight was Floyd in 2015. Now, Floyd won by unanimous decision in a much-hyped fight, but it was criticized for not living up to expectations. It was like 5 or 6 years too late. He wanted it like 2009. I think Floyd would have still won, but I think it would have been a little bit more competitive. And then 2020 is up to now, Canelo Alvarez and his Triple G in 2022, 3. Like Just Do say, that was the pay-per-view sparring match. Yeah, Canelo won by unanimous decision, avenging his previous draw and lost to Triple G in a highly anticipated trilogy. Yeah. These fights not only highlight the skills of each fighter, but also their impact on the sport and culture of boxing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, some great iconic fights. Now, what factors contributed to the popularity of these fighters in their respective decades? Okay? What factors contributed? Now, the popularity of these boxers in their respective decades can be attributed to several key factors. Okay? There you're at James J. Back down to James J. Jeffries again. Now, James, what factors contributed to the popularity of these boxers in their respective decades? James J. Jeffries, undefeated record. His unbeaten status created immense interest before he came back out. He should have stayed in retirement. Cultural context. He was a symbol of American strength during a time of national pride. Okay, Jack Johnson. Terry Akers. Hello, Terry. That's my sister-in-law. That's Miss Cass' big sister there, Terry Akers. They out there together somewhere. Oh, they back. Because Miss Cass bought my, I got a triple something from Wendy's. Sitting over there. But salute, Terry. Yes, my favorite sister-in-law. Terry Akers. Okay. Are you out there, Terry, in the living room? Or did you drop Miss Cass off and keep going? Yeah, Terry was driving, picked Miss Cass up, and they're back. Okay, Jack Johnson. Racial milestone. As the first African-American heavyweight champion, he challenged racial norms, gaining both supporters and detractors. You know, a lot of people would go to his fights to see him lose, right? So he played that villain role up to the hilt. Controversial persona. His lifestyle and defiance of suicidal expectations drew significant media attention. Mm-hmm. Jack Dempsey. Now, his fighting style, his aggressive, knockout-oriented style captivated fans. And media promotion. Dempsey was one of the first boxers to fully utilize mass media for promotion. Yeah, he was the first one that really made boxing popular, was Jack Dempsey. Mm-hmm. In the 1930s, back to Joe Louis again. Joe Louis was a symbol of hope. His success during the Great Depression provided a sense of hope and technical skill. Lewis's boxing technique and power made him a fan favorite. And he was champion for 12 years. Like I put that in perspective the other day. Just imagine, okay, you start first grade, go through elementary school, go to middle school, go to high school, graduate 12th grade. Through all that time, Joe Louis would have been heavyweight champion, right? So that puts it in how long this man was champion. Through all of that, from first grade, elementary school, all the way up to your graduation, Joe Louis would have been the heavyweight champion all that time. That's how long he reigned. the Brown Bomber. Sugar Ray Robinson in the 40s, pound for pound greatness. His versatility across weight classes boosted his reputation. Charismatic persona. Robinson's charm and showmanship attracted diverse audiences. Yeah, he did that European tour, took his pink Cadillac over there with him. He had a midget that went around with him, took his hairdresser. He was the one who started the entourage. Sugar Ray had like a 40-person entourage. Took him everywhere he went. Yeah. Sugar Ray Robinson. And then Rocky. The 50s, Rocky Marciano. Undefeated champion. His perfect record, 49-0, established him as a legend. Everyman appeal. His humble background resonated with fans. He was like a blue-collar fighter to fans, you know. Nothing flashy. Just go in there and get it in, okay? That's what really attracted him to the fans, you know. Like, perfect example was the Jersey Joe fight we just talked about. Jersey Joe was like a skilled fighter, you know, very technical. Rocky was just in there with him, and Jersey Joe was dominating. 13 rounds ahead on the cards, had to fight one, but Rocky kept at it and got Caesar Q in there in the 13th round and won the fight. Blue collar fighter. Okay, just kept at it. You know, behind on the cards. He went down in the first round, but he just stayed with it. And he came out the champion. And stayed champion his entire career. Muhammad Ali, 70s. Now, charisma and activism. Ali's personality and stance on social issues made him a cultural icon. And this man stood on principle, okay? He never compromised his principles the entire time, okay? I mean, he gave up his title, gave up all those years of his career, 49 months, but he stood on principle for what he believed in. Never changed his stance. One iota, Muhammad Ali. And his historic fights, his fights with top fighters like Sonny Liston and Smoking Joe Frazier attracted massive attention. The greatest, Muhammad Ali. Then Joe Frazier in the 70s. Epic rivalries. Joe Frazier's rivalry with Ali created historic fights that captivated the public. 3 of the greatest fights of all time. That Thriller in Manila is the greatest fight of all time. That third fight between those two, after the 10th round, I don't know how they kept coming out there, man, because they was just beating the crap out of each other. And after each round, they like walking in slow motion back to the stools. But when that bell rang, they was right back out there going at it. And then in round 14, Ali just gave everything he had, trying to get Joe Frazier out of there. But Frazier would not go down. So when Ali got back to his corner after 14, he told Angelo Dundee, cut my gloves off. I'm not going back out there anymore. Angelo Dundee, they were over there arguing about that because Angelo Dundee said, look at Frazier. Meanwhile, Frazier in his corner, Eddie Futch ready to throw the towel in. Frazier arguing with his trainer. He wanted to come back out there. Couldn't even see. He was blind in both. Ali had swollen both of his eyes up. Frazier couldn't see out of either eye. Was still trying to come back out and fight. But Eddie Futch threw the towel and he told him, no one will forget what you did here today, son. And then after the fight, they was in the same hospital room side by side. Yeah, the Thriller in Manila, the greatest fight of all time. And that's what makes Joe Frazier so iconic, because he was the other side of those Ali rivalries, Smoking Joe Frazier. And it made him relatable and admirable, his relentless style, because Joe Frazier only knew one way, come forward, okay? That was it. That's what made him, George Foreman, such a bad style matchup for him, because, you know, he just had to go through too much on Foreman, because one thing about Joe Frazier, he was coming forward, okay, bobbing and weaving and whatever, he was coming forward. And Frazier had some great footwork. He don't get enough credit for that footwork. He had those small steps he took, always in perfect position. but George Foreman was just a terrible style matchup. He just had too much to go through, and him and Foreman could have fought 100 times. Foreman would knock him out 100 times because Frazier was going to come forward, and Foreman just had too much. He would catch Joe Frazier because Foreman did not have to go looking for Joe Frazier. Joe Frazier going to be right there in his face. Okay, that's what made him relatable and admirable to the fans. His style and work ethic. Okay, Iron Mike Tyson in the 80s. Iron Mike Tyson. Youth and power. Now, Tyson's record as the youngest heavyweight champion drew significant media buzz at that time. And knockout power. His ability to finish fights quickly kept fans on the edge of their seats. Because back in the 80s, a Mike Tyson fight, you made sure you had everything. You done used the bathroom, you got all your drinks, your food, whatever, before it starts. Because once the fight starts, you're not leaving to TV to go nowhere because you come back, it might be over. That's how Mike Tyson fight was. Before the fight starts, you have everything set up. You're not leaving because you just look away 1 second, the fight is over. And that's what really kept the fans loving Mike, his ability to finish fights quickly. Okay, on Mike. Roy Jones Jr. Athleticism. His speed and unique style set him apart from traditional boxers. Roy could do stuff in the ring that you're not supposed to do, right? And get away with it because of his athleticism, Put his hands behind his back, go play basketball and then come to the fight same day, Roy was just, their athleticism was off the charts. And pound for pound rankings, he consistently ranked highly across multiple divisions. Floyd Mayweather Jr. Again, you can switch Floyd and Manny out. Manny can be 2000s, Floyd can be 2010s or either war. But 2000s was Floyd Money Mayweather. And undefeated record. His perfect record enhanced his brand and intrigue. Self-promotion. Mayweather was a master of branding and self-promotion, creating a larger-than-life persona. Only bad thing about it, he got all these young boxers now so focused on that Everybody want to keep their that they tiptoeing around each other like they scared of their own shadow, won't fight each other, scared to lose that Floyd did that. Everybody ain't Floyd though. But when Floyd got his guess what he was doing? He was out there fighting, right? Manny Pacquiao. Pearl, sir, what's up, Pearl? In the building. All right. Salute. We just talking about some of the greatest fighters of all time. Started from the 1900s, all the way up to now. Manny was for the 2010s was Manny Pacquiao. We looked at the greatest fighter for each decade, Pearl, from the 2000s right now to 2025. Okay. For 2010s was Manny Pacquiao. Global appeal. And we talked about what made him so appealing to the fans. Manny's rise from poverty to champion resonated with many, especially in the Philippines. That's why he's back in the ring against Barrios, because Manny gave away a lot of his money to his people down in the Philippines. That's why his ass broke. He gave away too much money down there. Because Manny came from poverty and he really looked out for his country people when he made it, So I think Manny needs money now. Maybe he's just trying to be great. I don't know. But anyway, his global appeal, that's what made him so appealing to the fans, especially in the Philippines. His fighting style, Pacquiao's speed and exciting fights kept fans engaged. Yeah. Manny had a very, I didn't put Manny up there. Very exciting fighting style. Okay. And from 2020, the best fighter from 2020 to now, Canelo Alvarez. Okay. Current face of the sport. Canelo's versatility, what makes him so appealing to the fans. His ability to compete and succeed in multiple weight classes garnered attention. Yeah, Canelo came all the way from what, welterweight? Been all the way to, I think did he fight at cruiserweight? But came through a lot of weight classes. And marketability, he's the current face of the sport, and did a great job, I must say. When he took over from Floyd, he's been a great face of boxing. Canelo's personality and business acumen helped him become a boxing superstar. Yeah, still represent the sport as the face very well. Okay, love him or hate him, he's represented the face of the sport very well. Okay, he's our representative from the 2020s up to now. Okay, these factors combine to create compelling narratives around each of these fighters, enhancing their popularity and legacy in the sport of boxing. Okay, now let's talk about some trainers, because we had that on. I'm not doing no clickbait. You know how people have something on the what you call the damn thing, and don't even talk about it on the picture when they advertising this show. What do you call it? I forgot. But I had training and great fighters. So I don't do no clickbait, but do the show, don't say nothing about trainers. So let's get into the trainers segment of the show. Okay, we're going to talk about some great trainers now. Yeah. Those were some of the best boxers for each decade from 1900 up to the current decade. Okay. Yeah. That was the last one. Canelo Alvarez was the representative from 2020. We're halfway through the decade, 2025. Okay. We got 5 more years to go. But up to now, it's Canelo. So let's move on to the trainers now. Okay. Anybody come in? Pearl Sur. Oh, already. Pearl Sur just already. What's up, Pearl Sur? Okay, yeah. Now the trainers segment. Who is the best trainer in the modern era of boxing? No, that's not what we're going to talk about, though. But we're going to talk about trainers. Right there. Okay? We got like 12 trainers we're going to cover. Okay? Let's get into it. That's Joe Louis and Jack Blackburn in the middle, his trainers. I don't know who those other guys are. I always say Ray Arcel was the best trainer, though, because, man, that man had, he trained, like I said, he trained Benny Leonard in the 20s and Roberto Duran in the 70s. And they had a world champion in every decade in between those. At least one. Some decades he had numerous. You know, longevity, man. Wow. That's crazy. To go on that long. But bear with me for a moment, please. Okay, I'm almost there. There we go. So let's see. Now, this is Ray Arcel said this. Ring sense is an art, a gift from God that flows out of a fighter like a great painting flows out of an artist, or a great book flows out of an author, the great Ray Arcel. First of all, now as far as trainers go, ranking them is extremely difficult. For one thing, in the old days, almost every trainer concentrated on one champion at a time. There were only a fraction of the champions, 8 weight classes, and 1 title per weight class, as opposed to 17 weight classes and 4 sanctioning organizations today, plus interim, regular, super, and in some cases, champions in recess. There are potentially 204 champions today. 612 if you count regular, interim, and super. Isn't that ridiculous? Potentially 612 champions. That's crazy. Piro Sir says, I love Manny, one of my favorite fighters. And in popularity, definitely 2010. Best, but the number 2 to his nemesis. Who is that, Piro Sir? Floyd? Okay. Now that said, there are trainers who are regarded historically as grandmasters, elite of the elite, and they are all gone now. Now, the following list is drawn from various sources, and in the end is an opinion based on fact. Now, what made a great trainer and elite master of the sweet science? Joe Louis said in his autobiography, "Once that bell rings, you are on your own. You better be ready. And you better have a guy who makes sure you are ready and who can tell you what to do if something goes wrong. And that guy to make sure a fighter is ready is his trainer, right? It's his trainer. Now, training hasn't improved in any way the past 50 years. If anything, there are less qualified trainers than ever before. Joe Frazier commented, "These guys aren't trained by real champions, by great ex-fighters." Now, the best trainers in history were fighters who knew all the secrets of the game. Rocky Marciano's trainer, the great Charlie Goldman, claimed to have had over 300 pro fights. Jack Blackburn, Joe Louis's trainer, was one of the great fighters of the turn of the century. They had over 160 pro fights. Yeah, Jack Blackburn is in the Hall of Fame as a trainer, but I thought he should have been in there as a fighter too. But fortunately, he did get in there as a trainer. I thought he should have been in there in both. Mike Mazik, what's up, Mike Mazik? Yeah, Mike had sent me a cash app, and I sent it back. That's what the thing said. But that was the other Cash Sports that sent it back. It wasn't me. But then Mike sent it back. Okay. So appreciate you, Mike Mazik, for that cash app. Okay. All right, salute Mike Mazik. Okay, let's continue. Yeah, the best trainers in history are former fighters, right? And that level of experience, like all those fights Charlie Goldman had and Jack Blackburn had, that level of experience is completely gone from boxing today. Now, Ray Arcel, he's a Hall of Fame trainer also, right? He learned himself from some of the greats, right? Like Whitey Bimstein. He noted right before his death, boxing is not really boxing today. It's theater. Some kids might look good, but they don't learn their trade. If you take a piece of gold out of the ground, you know it's gold, but you have to clean it. You have to polish it. But there aren't too many guys capable today of polishing a fighter, right? Let's look at some of the grandmasters of all time, some of the great trainers, starting with Jack Blackburn. He was Joe Louis's trainer until his death. I don't know who took over after Jack Blackburn, but yeah, he was Joe Louis's trainer from the beginning until he passed away. He was the one that made Joe Louis into the Brown Bomber, Jack Blackburn. Okay. We got 6 of the grandmasters: Jack Blackburn, Charlie Goldman, Eddie Futch, Emanuel Stewart, Ray Arcel, Cus D'Amato. Let's look at them. First, Jack Blackburn. Now, Jack Blackburn is, in the opinion of many, the greatest trainer who ever lived. I think it's Ray Arcel. Okay. Now, Sam Langford, one of the greatest fighters who ever lived, summed up Joe Louis when he said, "The Detroit Bomber is another Joe Gans, whom I consider the greatest fighter of all time. He can hit, he is fast, he is no slouch at employing ringcraft. I am glad I am still alive to see enough to watch the boy. He is the marvel of the age." Now, Jack Blackburn made Joe Louis Burrow into the great Joe Louis. He made him into the Brown Bomber. Jack Blackburn did, okay? Jack Blackburn is best known as the Hall of Fame trainer of the great Joe Louis, but he was also a great lightweight fighter who engaged in over 160 recorded pro fights from 1901 to 1923. Blackburn claimed to have had 385 fights, but officially 160. And he very well could have had 385, but 1901, back when he fought in that age, record keeping was kind of sketchy, and a lot of fights wasn't recorded, right? Now, in a time when boxing was illegal in many states, most of his fights probably went unrecorded. And that boxing career shaped Blackburn's subsequent career as a trainer. Now, he was never a champion, but he still fought some of the greatest fighters of all time, right? He fought the legendary lightweight champion, Joe Gans, the old master, 3 times. He fought all-time great Sam Langford 6 times, okay? He fought Dave Holly 5 times. Fought future light heavyweight champion Jack O'Brien. And he fought Harry Grant, possibly the greatest middleweight of all time. Blackburn even fought heavyweights, okay? Jim Berry, he fought Gunboat Smith, Billy Rocap. So he even went up and fought heavyweights. And he watched every bit of what trainers did during his 22-year career and applied it to become an all-time truly great trainer himself, okay? Blackburn trained 4 fighters who went on to become world champions. He trained bantamweight Bud Taylor, lightweight Sammy Mandel, welterweight Jackie Fields, and heavyweight Joe Louis. Now, Louis was his pride and joy, who he felt he had molded in the image of the great technicians of his day. The vicious but cerebral Blackburn, he molded him in his image of himself, the old master Joe Gans, and the power-punching Sam Langford. The Blackburn was introduced to Joe Louis on June 25th, 1934, and he watched Joe sparring and hitting the heavy bag. And Blackburn said later, he saw at once Louis had natural punching power, something that could not be taught. You can't teach power. Like you say in football, you can't teach speed, you can't teach power. And Jack Blackburn said he saw right away that Joe Louis had natural punching power, but he also saw that Louis was completely dependent on his power and lacked solid fundamentals. Okay? So that's where he had to work on the fundamentals with Joe Louis. And Joe Louis said his first week with Jack Blackburn, he did nothing but hold a heavy bag and taught Joe Louis how to actually punch correctly. For an entire week, that's all he did. He held the heavy bag and taught him how to punch correctly. And Blackburn developed Joe Louis into not only a boxer puncher of extraordinary power and authority, but he taught Joe Louis how to use short, compact punches in what Floyd Patterson described as the best left hook in history. And Blackburn came up with some unique training methods. For instance, Blackburn trained Joe Louis to jab, and he maximized his hand speed by having him catch flies. Wow, catch flies. Those are the things that fly around. That's how he worked on Joe Louis' hand speed. He had him catch those. Okay, the next trainer is a legendary trainer of Rocky Marciano, Charlie Blackburn. He was also a fighter. There's Rocky and Charlie right there. Yeah. Yeah, they find Arnie loves him some Harry Greb. That's his avatar. The great Harry Greb, possibly the greatest heavyweight ever. I got Harry Greb, Carlos Monzon, and Marvin Hagler. Any order you put those 3, I ain't mad at you. But those are the top 3. Sugar Ray, welterweight. And when it comes to middleweights, no. Harry Greb, Marvin Hagler, Carlos Monzon. Any order, I ain't mad at you. But those 3. Put all 3 of those in front of Sugar Ray, I do. Okay. The great Charlie Goldman. Right? He's right in the elite. Right up there with Jack Blackburn. These elite 6 I'm talking about. Okay. Blackburn, Goldman, Futch, Stewart, Amato, and Arcel. Is that 6? Yeah, that's 6. Okay, Charlie, let's talk about Charlie Goldman. Now, though BoxRec only has records of 43 fights, it admits Goldman had more. Goldman claimed to have been in over 400 fights, but most were unrecorded. He fought around that same era with Blackburn, where a lot of fights went unrecorded. Record keeping was very sketchy. Now, given the quasi-legal status of the sport in New York in the pre-World War I era, it was not unusual that no record was kept of some fights, right? Many of them. Now, Charlie Goldman would say in later years, as did Jack Blackburn, that it was their experience, the hundreds of fights, and their watching and learning from the trainers that gave them the foundation to become great trainers themselves. After his career as a fighter ended, Goldman began training boxers. Goldman, like Blackburn, trained 4 undisputed world champions: middleweight Al McCoy, lightweight Lou Ambers, featherweight Joey Archibald, and his prized pupil, heavyweight Rocky Marciano. Okay, The Rock. Just as Joe Louis had been Blackburn's crowning achievement, Rocky Marciano was Goldman's. Now, his first 3 champions, Goldman concentrated on improving their potent technical skills, but he built Rocky from the ground up. Now, when Goldman first met Rocky, the fighter was an inexperienced, short, overweight, stoop-shouldered, balding, and clumsy, with the shortest of any heavyweight champion reach at 69 inches. Still got the shortest reach of any heavyweight champion, 69 inches. In addition, Rocky was starting late in the pro ranks and was light for a heavyweight. Nevertheless, Goldman saw something no one else saw in Rocky and began to work with him. Goldman believed that a trainer should play to what a fighter is good at, their gift, and improve and define it and refine it, right? Now, he sought to turn Rocky's shortcomings into advantages. His adage was, if you get a tall fighter, make him taller. If you get a short fighter, make him shorter. So with Rocky, Goldman made him shorter by teaching him to stoop down and fight out of a crouch. By having him stoop down low, Goldman made the already low target offered by Rocky that much harder to hit, right? Goldman, who originally just laughed at the challenge facing him with trying to improve Rocky, in the end felt he had crafted a masterpiece. And Goldman said, I got a guy who was short, stoop-shouldered, and balding, with 2 left feet, right? And he said Rocky's victims would all look better than he does as far as moves are concerned, but they don't look so good laying on the canvas, right? He crafted moves that other trainers, such as Cus D'Amato, used later with similar height and reach disadvantages, fighters like Mike Tyson. Now, Goldman had a special 300-pound heavy bag built and had Rocky pounded with both hands to increase both his punching power and his endurance, right? And Goldman said, Rocky can hit, but I taught him how to punch. And he introduced wind sprints in addition to Rocky's morning runs of up to 10 miles. And he also introduced a novel way of using a speed bag, but he didn't use like anyone else did it. He had Rocky hit it with hooks and slow power shots to work on his accuracy. And in the end, Charlie Goldman took a guy, excuse me for a minute. In the end, Goldman took a guy who on paper would never have made a club fighter, let alone an undisputed heavyweight champion, and he made him into the number 3 heavyweight of all time and the only undisputed heavyweight champion in history to retire undefeated. Only champion at any weight to retire undefeated. Okay? Eddie Futch, Papa Smurf is next. Papa Smurf, Eddie, the great Eddie Futch. Oh, Ken Saul Love One I seen that blue in there. Ken Saul Love One, and Jarrell Hattie is in the building. How are y'all doing today? Ken Saul Love One, Jarrell Hattie, and Ken Saul Love One, putting some color in the chat as usual. Appreciate you, Ken Saul Love One. We talking about some great trainers now. Talking about Papa Smurf now, Eddie Futch. Okay, but we gotta recognize Ken Saul Love One with the color. Appreciate you, Ken Saul Love One, and Jarrell Hattie. Now, Eddie Futch, Papa Smurf. Now, four of the five men that defeated Muhammad Ali during his professional career, Joe Frazier, Ken Norton, Larry Holmes, and Trevor Berbick, were all trained by Eddie Futch. Ali is quoted as saying, Eddie Futch was put on earth to make sure I stayed humble. Okay, born in Mississippi, Eddie moved with his family to Detroit when he was 5 years old. Now, as a young man, he began boxing, and in 1932, he won the Detroit Athletic Association Lightweight Championship. And in 1933, he won the Detroit Golden Gloves Championship. He trained at the same gym as Joe Louis, the Brewster Recreation Center gym, and Emanuel Stewart eventually trained there too later. The first day Emanuel Stewart walked in there, Eddie Futch and Joe Louis was in there, right? And he also sparred with Joe Louis. The heart troubles prevented Futch from turning pro, and not wanting to leave the sport, he became a trainer. He trained 4 undisputed boxing champions, just like Charlie Goldman and Jack Blackburn. He had heavyweight champion Joe Frazier, heavyweight champion Riddick Bowe. He had middleweight champion Don Jordan, and light heavyweight and heavyweight champion Michael Spinks. In addition, he trained a horde of alphabet champions, including such great fighters as Alexis Arguello. He had Alexis for a minute. Sure did. Now, Futch is probably best remembered for training Joe Frazier and Riddick Bowe, right? Those are probably his biggest two, Frazier and Riddick Bowe, right? With Frazier, Eddie Futch had many of the same problems that Charlie Goldman had with Rocky. Frazier was short, fat, and had no reach. Yet, Futch crafted a merciless body-punching machine who is one of the top 20 heavyweights of all time. Like Goldman, Futch believed in emphasizing a fighter's gifts and working to refine their technique to play to their strengths. So with Joe Frazier, Futch teaching him how to use head movement and the bob and weave led to Joe's having the best defensive numbers of any heavyweight champion in history. Yeah, like I said, Joe Frazier's footwork is underrated. He took those little small steps, and he was always right where he wanted to be at, man. Watch Joe Frazier in little small steps. While he was barbing and weaving, he was constantly taking those steps, coming forward. Watch him. Great footwork, Joe Frazier, man. And with Riddick Bowe, Futch said he had the most talented fighter he had ever worked with. His challenge with Riddick was to keep him focused and away from the all-night buffet. Now, when it was obvious to him that Riddick, who had begged him to train him, was no longer willing to make the sacrifice to be great, Eddie walked away, leaving large training fees behind. Yeah, Eddie said, Riddick didn't want it. So he said, well, Riddick, I'm not wasting my time on you, and walked away from it. Emanuel Stewart is his prize pupil, the hitman, Thomas Hearns. Now, Emanuel Stewart trained the last great undisputed heavyweight boxing champion, Lennox Lewis, and then he made Vladimir Klitschko a great fighter. Now, Emanuel Manny Stewart was born on July 7th, 1944, passed away on October 25th, 2012. He was a figure associated with boxing his entire adult life. He was a boxer and trainer. He also was a highly regarded commentator for HBO Boxing. Yeah, he went to that Brewster's gym his first day. He walked in the door. I told you, Joe Louis and Eddie Futch were both in there that day training. Knew he came to the right place. Emanuel Stewart trained a total of 41 world champion fighters throughout his career, most notably Thomas Hearns, through the famous Kronk Gym. Later, he trained heavyweight champion Lennox Lewis and Vladimir Klitschko. His heavyweight champions had a record of 34 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw, combined in title fights. He had champions in 37 title fights, 34 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw. Now, Stewart is a member of both the International Boxing Hall of Fame and the World Boxing Hall of Fame. He was also known for his charity work in Detroit, Michigan, especially in the area of childhood education. Yep, he loved the children. He was born in, of all places, Bottom Creek, West Virginia. Now, at 12 years old, he went with his mother. They moved to Detroit, Michigan, after his mother's divorce from his father. Now, in his early adulthood, Stewart worked for a short time at other jobs before his boxing career began. He fell into his life's work at Brewster Recreation Center, famous as the home of Joe Louis and Eddie Futch. And I told you, I read a story. The first day he went there, Eddie Futch and Joe Louis were both in there training. Now, Stewart began as an amateur boxing career at Brewster at 15 years old. As an amateur, he went 94 wins, 3 losses, okay? And he won the 1963 National Golden Gloves tournament as a bantamweight. Oh, time is passing by. Now, he intended to go pro, but he had difficulty finding a manager and starting his career. His best managerial offer came from California, a California group that included Eddie Futch. But that offer would have required Stewart to relocate to California, right? He was extremely close and very supportive of his mother and his 2 younger sisters, who were still in Detroit. After much agonizing, Stewart decided his family came first, and he turned down the offer to turn pro, and he stayed in Detroit with his family. And he became a legendary trainer, though. He became a legendary trainer, right? And in 1971, him and his brother James Stewart went to the Kronk Gym, a noted gym for amateur boxers in the 1960s. And Stewart became a part-time coach at the Kronk, first coaching his brother and then other fighters, as they noticed his meticulous attention to detail, his preparation, and knowledge of the sport. And the rest is history. His first world champion was not the Hitman, though. It was Hilmer Kenty. That was his first world champion. Hilmer became champion on March 2nd, 1980, right? And then the Hitman was the second champion. Cus D'Amato. We'll get to some of these other people. Cus D'Amato was the next trainer. Now, Cus is unique among the great trainers in that he had a system he believed in, and he sought out fighters who fit into his system. But what separated him from other trainers with the system was his ability to adapt it to his individual fighters, right? Cus was not rigid in his application. For instance, his legendary peekaboo worked differently with each of his champions. He would tweak it to match their skills. Now, he had 3 undisputed world champions. He had heavyweight Floyd Patterson, light heavyweight Jose Torres, and heavyweight, his prize pupil was Mike Tyson. But Floyd Patterson wasn't bad either, okay? Now, Cus, like all of the old school trainers, was a great amateur fighter. But like Eddie Futch and Emanuel Stewart, he could not make the leap to the pros for health reasons. For him, it was loss of vision in his eye. But instead, he made the leap to trainer. He began his career in earnest when he opened the Empire Sporting Club with Jack Burrell at the Gramercy Gym. And Cuss also lived there for many years. Yep. In 1952, he spotted a young middleweight training at the Gramercy Gym and convinced him, 17-year-old kid, that his style and training could carry him to a world title. In the kid's case, a weak chin required special protection, and Cuss's peekaboo style developed years before. For Graciano was a perfect fit, and this kid was Floyd Patterson. Yep. Cuss trained him and managed him all the way to the World Championship title. Cuss D'Amato, move on to the next one. Okay, after Cuss, we have the great legendary Ray Arcel. Incredible. Ray Arcel is just incredible. Ray Arcel was a great trainer, a technical master who could indeed polish great talents into great fighters. Arcel was born in Terre Haute, Indiana on August 30th, 1899, the son of Rose and David Arcel, who were Jewish immigrants from Russia and Romania. He moved to New York before he was 6 years old. Now, Arcel grew up in Harlem. Now, growing up when and where he did, Arcel took the path of most resistance and trained to be a boxer at Gruff's Gymnasium on 116th Street and 8th Avenue. And Arcel said, you had to fight in those days. You lived in a neighborhood where you were challenged every day. We were the only Jewish family there, but that's an old story. Of course, fighting in the street meant nothing. Wherever you'd go, you'd see two guys fighting. If you didn't fight, you were yellow. As with other great trainers, Ray was unable to make the jump to the professional rank, but loving the sport, wanted to stay a part of it. So he began working with the trainers at Gruff's gym first. And then he himself began training fighters at Stillman's gym, right by the old location of Madison Square Garden on 8th Avenue in the 1920s. He had the following undisputed champions. He had lightweight champion Benny Leonard. He had lightweight champion Roberto Duran. He had light and welterweight champion Barney Ross. Middleweight Tony Zale. Heavyweight J.J. Braddock. Heavyweight Ezra Charles. And he also trained the great Larry Holmes. Yeah. He trained Larry. Now, the first heavyweight he trained was James Braddock for his fight with Joe Louis in 1937. This is the same man that trained Roberto Duran in the 70s. Now, over the years, Arcel trained 15 members of the Joe Louis Bum of the Month Club and told Fred that he got tired of seeing those guys stretched out by Joe Louis. Now, Arcel, who told his family he was tired of boxing, retired in 1949 and took a job in private industry. But he still went to the fights just as a fan. Then he saw Ezra Charles, who he called the greatest talent he ever saw. And he was right back in boxing, right? Now, he felt afoul of the mob in the 1950s, and it nearly got him killed. They beat him with a pipe, left him for dead in the alley. Now, Arcel began arranging fights for ABC. Unfortunately, another network with close ties to the IBC, right, International Boxing Club, was run by Frankie Carbo and James Norris, notorious mafia figures, right? And they began suffering a financial strain. On September 19th, 1953, Arcel was standing outside a Boston hotel, having just returned from Yom Kippur services, when he was attacked by an unknown assailant and hit in the forehead with a lead pipe. He suffered a concussion, spent 19 days in the hospital, and was lucky he wasn't killed. Getting the message, also retired from boxing for 18 years. And he did not fully return until 1972, when he began working with the Hands of Stone, Roberto Duran. Right? The last champion he trained was the Eastern Assassin, Larry Holmes, who he worked with until 1982. Okay? So Roberto Duran's later career, when he started moving up into the upper classes like junior middleweight, super middleweight, Roberto he went to light heavyweight. Arcel wasn't his trainer anymore. Okay, let's move on, because we got a few other ones I wanted to get to. Ray Arcel. Yeah, let's get to these other great trainers. Okay, but those were the main six there. Jack Blackburn, Charlie Goldman, Eddie Futch, Emmanuel Stewart, Custer Monto, Ray Arcel. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more, 7 more, including the great Uncle Roger. We got to get Uncle Roger in here. Let's get them moving. Okay, get the rest of them in. Okay, the next one is going to be Ignacio Beristain. Ignacio Beristain. That's him and Juan Manuel Marquez right there. Great trainer, / manager. Ignacio. Let's talk about him. And there's a few other great trainers before 4 o'clock and Just Do gets here. But I appreciate everybody for coming through today. Ignacio Beristain. Now, undoubtedly, the greatest Mexican boxing trainer of all time, Beristain has not only years of experience, but also a certain teaching style that produces amazing technical fighters. So there goes that flat-footed Mexican bullshit. He produces amazing technical fighters. As previously mentioned, Beristain is all about technicality and detail of boxing. He takes his time to perfect movement in his fighters. If there's one trainer that likes to train by the book and have a certain degree of perfection in every punch that his fighter throws, it's Ignacio Nacho Beristain. His most notable students are Oscar De La Hoya, Abner Maris, Juan Manuel Marquez, Daniel Zaragoza, and Gilberto Roman. While his resume is not as impressive as other trainers, his results are. Juan Manuel Marquez was the only fighter to ever give Manny Pacquiao a run for his money by a beautiful technical work in the ring. Beristain is a Boxing Hall of Fame resident since 2002. Okay, Ignacio. Lou Duva. Lou Duva. There's Lou and Evander Holyfield. Lou Duva. This name just screams Hall of Fame. Before going further, let's look at the boxers he worked with. Evander Holyfield, Pernell Whitaker, Michael Moorer, Arturo Gatti, Lennox Lewis, Tony Tucker, Vinny Paz, Hector Camacho, and many more. Duva's fighters were dominant and provided exciting results. There is no doubt that Lou was able to take any decent fighter and thrust their careers into a professional utopia. His fighters were less reserved and more aggressive. People loved to watch any fighter under Lou Duva, as they never knew what's coming next. Right? Lou Duva. Okay. Angelo Dundee. Angelo Dundee. The great Angelo Dundee. Muhammad Ali and Sugar Ray Leonard. Okay, Angelo Dundee has got another Hall of Fame trainer with an astounding resume. He was the sole person responsible for Sugar Ray Leonard's 3 world title achievements. Dundee worked with all kinds of boxers, including helping George Foreman make an impressive comeback. Yeah, he was in the corner when George Foreman became the oldest heavyweight champion ever. Dundee's expertise is the art of boxing. and Dundee made sure to fight a smart fight. He was known for his tactical approaches to fights and his clever plan development. One big reason why Muhammad Ali never lost a rematch. Muhammad Ali had 11 rematches, never lost one. Mainly 90% responsible for that man right there. The adjustments and all that kind of stuff, right? Angelo Dundee. Okay, trying to get through this now. Teddy Atlas. Talking about some great trainers. Teddy Atlas. Teddy Atlas. Being groomed and learning from Cus D'Amato makes Teddy Atlas an exceedingly valuable trainer for any athlete. He must be one of the most thought-out trainers in recent boxing history. While his name does not create the kind of hype that a Freddie Roach or Roger Mayweather does, his knowledge is on par with those men, right? Anywhere you look at it, it's hard to deny that Teddy Atlas had some part in bringing Mike Tyson to the top. His resume is built on being a head trainer for Michael Moorer, Alexander Povetkin, Samuel Peter, and his management were also very interested in Atlas. But Atlas never ended up taking that job, okay? Samuel Peter, right? His temper is short, his criticism is direct, and his teaching style is unique. Thus, many have trouble keeping the line of communication conflict-free. Regardless of what anyone had ever said about Teddy Atlas, if listened to, his results are positive. It is apparent that this trainer knows how to assemble a fighter's separate attributes into a better flowing whole. If Michael Moorer would have listened to him, George Foreman would have never became the oldest heavyweight champion, because Teddy Atlas told Michael Moorer, you got to fight one, stay on the outside and box him. Michael Moorer runs right up into the pocket and gets knocked out, okay? So listen to Teddy. Roger Mayweather, Uncle Roger. Here's Uncle Raj. Okay? Let's see, Roger the Dodger. Mayweather. Let's talk about Roger. How can you make a list of great trainers without the uncle of the world, undefeated world champion superstar Floyd Mayweather Jr.? Roger is not only a trainer, but a former world champion himself with a record of 72 fights, 59 wins, 13 losses, no draws. His knowledge of boxing, like I was saying before, the best trainers are former fighters. Perfect example, Uncle Roger, right? Now, his knowledge of boxing history, as well as the technical aspect of boxing, is nothing short of astounding. There are a number of things that may draw people away from Roger, but his booming result with his nephew is well unbeaten. With a current record he retired with a record of 50-0. Floyd was one of the most wanted opponents in boxing history. Roger did a great job with his nephew, delivering an astounding, fast, and ring-smart boxing. Uncle Roger. Okay, let's get a little link time before we get out of here. It's 3:44. Still got a couple more. But hey, nobody gonna hit the link. We continue with the last two. Freddie Roach and George Benton. We got two more great trainers. Freddie Roach and George Benton. Okay, I'm gonna drop the link in there. We got like 15 minutes before Just Do Boxing. Okay? I think. Knowing me, we'll be on here till 8 o'clock tonight. Purva Sir says, Uncle Raj, one of my personal favorites. I wasn't paying attention to the chat, man. Damn. You say, Carlo Hernandez is number one, but the other goats are Bernstein and Jolene Rivera. Okay. There is no doubt. Definitely doubt, brother, but he is in the best list. Oh, you must be talking about Ray Arcel. Okay. Let's see. I I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention to the chat. Hope everybody enjoyed the show on the trainers today. And those other great fighters we talked about from every decade, remember? All the way up. Now, this week, we always did former fighters in the profile, but this week we're going to start doing some active fighters. First Friday of every month, we're going to do an active fighter. This Friday, we're going to start out with the life and career of Canelo Alvarez. Right? Who better to start with the active fighters than the face of the sport, right? The life and career of Canelo Alvarez, Friday. And the first Friday of every month, we're going to do an active fighter because it was usually just doing former. So we might as well talk about some active guys. So starting Friday. First Friday of every month, we're going to do an active fighter. Okay? Okay, let me make sure everything is right here. Then we're going to drop the link. You're going to get like 15 minutes. I got to go. Okay, there we go. I think. Oh, Nacho. About Nacho. Okay. Oh, you saw. Okay, yeah, I see. George Benton. Yeah, he was good. Georgie Benton. You don't know too much about him. When people talk about trainers, though, I don't understand why. You know, you don't hear too much about Benton. You don't get his props. You know, it's crazy. Like Joe Frazier footwork. But let's talk about Freddie Roach and Georgie Benton. Last two. There's Freddie and his prize pupil, Manny, of course, right? And the damn thing that went sideways on me, man. I hate when that happens. Jimmy Christmas. But yeah, we got some good fights this weekend, I think. We got the DB3 card. What else we got? And Abdullah Mason on there. So yeah, we should be in good shape. And it's Hump Day. Hump Day. The thing turned sideways on me. We're gonna get Freddie Roach in and George Benton. Final two trainers. Yeah. We went over all the best fighter of every decade. Early, hope y'all enjoyed that. What made him so great, what people enjoyed about him, you know. All the way up to 2020, from 1900 all the way up to 2025, we did. Okay. Matter of fact, let's review them. Okay. Okay, for the 1900s, we had, it was James J. Jeffries, wasn't it? Yeah. The 1910s was Jack Johnson. In the 1920s was Jack Dempsey, best fighter of every decade. 1930s was Joe Louis. 1940s was Sugar Ray Robinson. 1950s was The Rock, Rocky Marciano. 1960s was Muhammad Ali. 1970s was Smoking Joe Frazier. The 1980s was Iron Mike Tyson. 1990s was Roy Jones. 2000s was Floyd Mayweather. 2010s was Manny Pacquiao. We got half a decade in. 2020 to 2025 was Canelo Alvarez. Those were the best boxers from every decade, all the way from 1900 up to 2025. Yup. Hope y'all enjoyed that. I'm still trying to get these last two boxings. 10. Shoot, it's almost time to go now. Don't look like I'm gonna get Freddie, but the last two was Freddie Roach and George Benton. Okay, tomorrow will be boxing in the States. We're winding down. We only got like 2 states left. We got Wisconsin and Wyoming. I forgot about Wyoming. Miss Cass reminded me of Wyoming. I don't think there's any states begin with X, Y, or Z, is it? I don't think. We got Wisconsin and Wyoming left, and that's it. And we went through every state in the United States and did a little history of every state and some other significant events concerning boxing, like famous venues and famous fights that happened in the state. And then we looked at some boxers from each state. And we even included Washington, D.C. last week. Now we're up to the last 2. We got the last 2 is who? Like I said, Wisconsin is tomorrow, and then next week is Wyoming. And then Friday is the profile. We're doing active boxers now. First Friday every month is active boxer. This Friday is the life and career of Canelo Alvarez. And we're gonna do an active boxer the first Friday of every month from now on out, okay? And so that's how we doing it on Cast Sports, the Box Story, and bringing you all that boxing history. I appreciate everybody for coming through today. We got Just Do Boxing is next. Bring you that balanced boxing talk. Let me see if I can see what Just Do talking about today real quick. A little preview. Oh, turn the thing down. Yeah. Damn. A James Brown song was I was getting ready to get up and dance. You know, the James Brown song make you get up and dance. Let's see. Just Do Boxing. What Just Do got going on today? Let me see. Let's see. There it is. Okay. Hit that. Oh man, I don't see a thumbnail. I don't know. But Just Do Boxing is 4:00 p.m. Okay. And find out. Come on over there and see what's happening on Just Do today. Up next in these YouTube streets. I can't find the thumbnail for some reason. Just Do Boxing. You listening? Let's see. Lives. Live. Here we go. Okay, but I appreciate everybody for coming through today. And remember the rest of the week. We got boxing in the States tomorrow, Wisconsin. We got the life and career of Canelo Alvarez Friday. So join me then at 2:00. Because you know, if it's Monday through Friday at 2 p.m., it's the Box Story bringing you all of that boxing history. Jarrell Hattie, Kensaw Love 1, Mike Mazik, Pearl Sur, Terry Akers, Terrell Cummings, Bruce Gass, Define Arnie, Mike Rim, Thomas Hill, Crush the Legend, and Miss Cass. Appreciate everybody that came through today. 1,000%. Join me tomorrow for boxing in the States, Wisconsin. Okay? Everybody have a great afternoon.